I'm Sarah, and this is a story I never thought I'd have to tell. A story that has risen from the depths of darkness and horror, forever changing my life. It all started on a seemingly ordinary day in the hot Ohio summer, where my husband Mike and I had just moved into an old house in the suburbs. Our house was a 2-story Victorian building that needed a lot of repairs. We were excited to start renovating and decided to begin by cleaning out the basement and attic. Among the piles of old and dusty items, we found a wooden carved chest that caught our attention. When we opened the chest, we were confronted with a collection of strange objects. Old cloth dolls with staring glass eyes, ancient books with leather covers and incomprehensible writings, and a small silver mirror that, despite the passage of time, still shone brightly. Mike suggested we sell these items at a yard sale. I was hesitant at first, having a strange feeling about the objects, but eventually agreed. I thought perhaps selling them would help me get rid of that uneasy feeling. The day of the yard sale arrived. The weather was warm and sunny, and neighbors came one after another to look at the items. Everything seemed normal until a middle-aged woman with gray hair and piercing eyes approached our table. When she saw the chest and its contents, the color drained from her face. "Where did you get these?" she asked in a trembling voice. I explained that we had found them in the basement of the house. The woman shook her head in dismay and said, "These belong to the Murphy family. They lived in this house years ago, until it happened." My curiosity was piqued. "What happened?" I asked. The woman looked around as if afraid someone might overhear. Then she whispered, "You'd better not sell these things. They're cursed." Before I could ask another question, the woman hurried away from us. Mike and I exchanged glances. He laughed and said, "Must be one of those superstitious old ladies. Don't worry about it." But I couldn't shake off that feeling of unease. Nevertheless, the sale continued, and by the end of the day, almost everything had been sold, except for the silver mirror that no one seemed to pay attention to. That night, as we were getting ready for bed, we heard a strange noise from the basement, a sound like rustling or something moving. Mike thought it might be a mouse, but I was sure the sound was too big and strange to be from a small rodent. I woke up at midnight. I felt like someone was watching me. When I opened my eyes, for a moment I thought I saw a shadow leaving the room. My heart was pounding. I woke Mike up and told him what happened, but he thought I had been dreaming. In the days that followed, stranger things happened. House items would move, incomprehensible sounds were heard from the walls, and I constantly felt like someone or something was following me. Mike tried to be rational and find an explanation for each incident, but I knew something wasn't right in this house. One night, when Mike was working late, I decided to go down to the basement and look for clues. With fear and trembling, I went down the stairs, flashlight in hand. The basement was dark and damp and had a strange smell, like earth and something else. In a corner of the basement, behind an old shelf, I found a yellow, decayed paper. When I opened it, I realized it was a page from a diary. With shaking hands, I began to read. June 20th, 1923. Tonight is the last night. I can't stop it. The mirror. The mirror is a gateway. They come through it. God help me. If anyone reads this, never the mirror. The writing stopped there. My heart was about to burst out of my chest. The mirror. Did he mean the silver mirror we still had in the house? Suddenly, I heard a rustling sound behind me. I turned and shone the flashlight in that direction. There was nothing. but I felt something moving in the darkness. I quickly ran out of the basement and slammed the door shut behind me. That night, I had terrible nightmares. I dreamed I was in a dark, endless hallway, and the sound of whispers and demonic laughter came from all sides. At the end of the hallway, I saw the silver mirror emitting a strange light. When I approached it, I saw my reflection, but my face changed and turned into a horrific creature with black eyes and sharp teeth. I woke up screaming. Mike tried to calm me down, but I knew this wasn't just a nightmare. Something was in this house, something that had come through that mirror. The next day, I decided to investigate. I went to the local library and inquired about the history of the house and the Murphy family. What I found froze my blood. If you enjoyed it so far, please hit the subscribe button if you liked the video. The Murphy family lived in this house in the 1920s. The father, George Murphy, was a paranormal researcher who secretly worked on ancient rituals and black magic. According to old newspaper reports, one summer night in 1923, neighbors heard terrible screams and shouts from the Murphy house. When the police arrived, they found all family members dead, with signs indicating they had been brutally killed. But George Murphy's body was never found. I returned home in fear and horror. Now I knew what we were dealing with. That mirror was a gateway that George Murphy had opened, a gateway to a dark and demonic world. When I told Mike, he didn't believe it at first. But that night, when we were both in the bedroom, we heard the sound of something breaking downstairs. We went down in fear and saw that the silver mirror had fallen and broken on the floor. And that's when we saw it, a black, shadow-like creature emerging from among the broken pieces of the mirror. Its eyes glowed like red coal, and the smell of sulfur and decay filled the air. Mike shouted, "Run!" But I couldn't move. The creature came towards me, extending its black, claw-like hands. I felt a deadly cold enveloping me. At the last moment, Mike pulled me aside and we ran towards the door. But the creature was faster. Before we could get out of the house, it caught Mike. The sound of his painful scream still echoes in my ears. I don't know how I escaped from that house. I ran all night, aimless and terrified. When morning came, I found myself in a park, wet with the sweat and rain. The police didn't believe me. They thought I had killed Mike, but no body was found, just blood and broken pieces of the mirror. Now, years have passed since that night. I live in another city under a different name, but every night in my nightmares, I see that creature, and sometimes, when I look in the mirror, for a moment I think I see something moving in the background. I know they're still there, in that dark space behind the mirrors, waiting for a chance to return. And I'm afraid that one day, they'll find a way. I warn everyone, be careful of what you buy at yard sales. You never know what dark and terrifying thing might be hidden behind a seemingly harmless object. And if one day you see an old silver mirror that shines strangely, stay away from it, because it might be a gateway to a world that no human should enter. I live with this fear every day that they will find me. Sometimes I think I hear whispers and quiet laughter from the corner of the room. And every time the lights flicker or a shadow moves in the corner of my eye, my heart stops with fear. At night when I lie alone in my bed, I feel like something in the darkness is watching me. Sometimes, in the moments between sleep and wakefulness, I think I feel cold, bony hands on my skin. I can't trust anyone anymore. Any stranger could be one of them, waiting for a chance to pull me into that dark world. Even my friends and colleagues sometimes seem different. Sometimes I think I see a strange glint in their eyes, or their smile is a little too wide. I've tried to get help. I've been to psychologists, priests, even so-called ghost hunters, but no one can help me. They don't understand that this is real. It's not just in my mind. Sometimes I think maybe it would be better to give up. Maybe if I let them take me, this nightmare would end. But then I remember Mike's terrified face, the moment that creature took him, and I know I have to resist. I'm writing this story as a warning to others. Be careful what you bring into your home. Every old object could have a dark story, a secret that's better left hidden. And if one day, at a yard sale, you see a silver mirror that shines strangely, stay away from it. Don't touch it. Don't look at it, because it might be the last thing you see in this world. I don't know how much longer I can go on. With each passing day, I feel like they're getting closer. Sometimes I think I hear their footsteps in the hallway, or feel their cold breaths on the back of my neck. But I will resist. For Mike, for myself, and for all those who might be the next victims. I won't let them win. If this story reaches you, please take it seriously. Be careful, and never ever trust old mirrors, because you never know what might be staring back at you from the other side.